I'd like to welcome everybody to Crypto Nation News. And today on the show, we have the one and only Andreas Antonopoulos going to come in. He's going to hang out with us for a little while. If y'all don't know Andreas, he has been in the Bitcoin community for a long time. He has actually authored 4 books. He has done a lot of studies on mastering Bitcoin, mastering Ethereum, and he has a couple other books out as well. Really, really knowledgeable. We ask that you be very respectful before his time that we have here with him. We got Mr. 1000 Bones is coming in and hanging out with us as well. We definitely appreciate you, Bones, coming in here and hanging out with us. Mr. Andreas, how are you doing today, sir?
I'm doing great. Thank you so much, Malpass.
Absolutely, buddy. Absolutely. Bones, how about you, sir? How are you doing today?
We're getting over the flu and stuff, so we're slowly but surely getting better. It's a good day.
Hey, as we're growing, guys, make sure when you come in, make sure you go ahead and smash the likes for Mr. Andreas as we're getting ready to roll with this thing. If you're new to the channel, go ahead and hit the subscribe button. Go ahead and hit the likes, and let's get some more content coming out to you. Mr. Andreas, I would like to start off by just saying thank you for coming on. It's not very often that we get someone with the status of yourself that's willing to come in and actually have a conversation with us, and we'd really appreciate your time that you're giving up for us today.
Thank you. It's absolutely my pleasure.
I think it's always a good thing when Bitcoin communities and XRP communities or any of the crypto communities merge and intertwine with each other. I think that's always a good day.
There might be some people, Mr. Andreas, that really and truly don't know who you are that might be in this chat. Would you mind giving yourself just a brief introduction? That way the people that are in the chat know.
Yeah, I'm a computer scientist by training. I've been involved in information security and distributed systems, been programming since I was 10 years old, and had a long career in secure distributed systems before I got involved in cryptocurrencies. Interested in digital currencies and the whole cypherpunk movement since the 90s with David Chaum and DigiCash and many of the predecessors to Bitcoin. And then slightly late to the game in 2012, I came across the white paper, the Bitcoin white paper. I read that, and I basically dropped everything and dove in and dedicated full time to this space. In 2013, I started writing Mastering Bitcoin, which is a book, kind of a college level textbook for the computer science of how Bitcoin works, which is probably one of the most cited books in the space. And so then I proceeded to testify in front of the Canadian Senate, Banking Committee, and various other international bodies, and started this drive to educate people about Bitcoin at first, but then more broadly, open blockchains and how this technology is going to have an impact on the world. I've now written, I just published my 6th book in December, and The Internet of Money Volume 3 came out. And I continue to write books and produce videos. By the way, all of my work is open source, which means that it's free to use, it's free to read, it's free to share. It's developed in open collaborative forums. You can actually watch me write my next book, which is Mastering the Lightning Network, which I'm starting now. And you can kind of see my work out there and don't have to pay a dime for it. I'm dedicated to education.
It's really an honor to really and truly sit here with you. I mean, just to be honest about it, you're really a pioneer in the space. We hear the terminology of OG passed around throughout a lot of us, and realistically, an extremely long time. Sitting down with legislation, writing books, helping college students. You are a true pioneer and innovator when it comes to the...
Honestly.
We are too, brother.
Yeah, you're only a couple of years older than me.
It feels like a dream sometimes. It's like this whole space, it's been a wild ride. And it's a real privilege to be involved in something which I feel has the historic importance that the cryptocurrency and blockchain space has, and getting involved with Bitcoin early on. Throughout my career in computer science and, from the very early days, I was on the internet in 1989. I was studying protocol design and distributed systems in in '92 at the University of London. And I watched the internet unfold, but I was always kind of the pimply-faced kid standing in the background, looking over the shoulders of others and just enjoying the experience, being along for the ride. You know, it's a real privilege to have an opportunity with Bitcoin to do something and not just be watching from the sidelines, but to have some impact on this space. And actually watch it flourish and watch history unfold. It's been a wild ride.
And that's really and truly what I try to explain to my viewers as well is once we started documenting this, once we started seeing YouTubers come out, we have people like yourself that are documenting in books. We have people that are documenting in blogs. We have people that are documenting this journey all the way around. And when you actually look at it, how it unfolds and being able to document this humongous change in history is really and truly a blessing, because this is not an opportunity that many people that many people of the world get to really and truly be at the forefront of this and really see how it's unfolding. It's a blessing that we're able to do what we're doing, and I'm honored to be here, and it's great to see.
Andreas, can you explain to us what you see about Bitcoin and blockchain technology that's such game-changing technology?
So for me, it's about the essence of decentralization, which has been a bit overused as a term, but the idea that you can have systems that operate with very specific rules, but without centralized control or rulers. So that you can take the essential architecture of power and spread that power to all of the participants, and they become systems of consent, the base of the word consensus, and they become systems where you volunteer to participate and you voluntarily choose the rules that you want to participate by choosing the system and its rules. So, for example, if you choose to run the software of Bitcoin, you are voluntarily choosing to participate in that economy under the rules defined in that software. And if you don't like it, you can leave and participate in another system. And it's an open system that works across borders, that is neutral. It doesn't care to your status, your identity. It doesn't care about the identity of the sender, the recipient, the amount that's being transmitted, or the purpose of the transaction. It's censorship resistant. It cannot easily, or in some cases not at all, be censored. So you can't be stopped from participating or transacting. It's immutable, so that you can't change things once they've happened, which gives a very high degree of certainty. And all of this running by a set of simple rules. To me, it's a very elegant re-implementation of how money should work. But beyond that, it's about creating systems of trust using network technologies and protocols, because it does go beyond money, I think. And these system of trusts allowing us to better organize society, and organize society in ways where people can participate with less coercion, with more voluntary participation, with more openness, and without all of these artificial barriers. So from that perspective, it ticks off a couple of things. Honestly, as a geek, I love the simple elegance of the technology. But it also kind of fulfills many of the ideological and political principles that drive my life, and this desire to see a world that's where there's more fairness, more opportunity, more justice, more understandable rules, and more voluntary participation, and less violence, coercion, hierarchy, power, and control. So from all of those perspectives, this is a technology that I think will have enormous social impact.
Absolutely.
Is it too late for governments to shut Bitcoin down?
I'm sorry?
Is it too late, in your opinion, for governments to shut Bitcoin down? Has that time already passed?
For the most part, yes. I think it's too late, primarily because not because they can't disrupt the network enough, but in order to do so, they would have to cooperate very, very closely. And because Bitcoin operates on a global level, there will always be governments that see it in their best interest to continue to have Bitcoin operate, even if just because it seems to annoy the other ones, right? So from that perspective, it's now transcended any one place. And so to get all of the world's governments to simultaneously and collaboratively decide to shut this down is very difficult. But at the same time, cannot. And the broader cryptocurrency and blockchain space cannot. Even if the network is disrupted, it will be repaired. If it's taken down, it will be brought back up. If it's crushed, it will be reborn and rebuilt. And what are we going to call the next one? We're going to call it Bitcoin, because why not? It's got a good brand. So you see, the thing is that even if the current implementation of the current network is disrupted, which is no easy proposition, it's actually very difficult to do. The thing that got born to repair the one bug they found that brought it to its knees temporarily would still be called Bitcoin, so they haven't actually killed the idea. And that doesn't even account for the broader ecosystem and the fact that once people realized they could build trusted systems based on network protocols that operated in a decentralized manner through consensus, the people are going to run with that idea again and again and again and again. And that's impossible to stop, because that's just math. I mean, it's just a unique recipe that came together from the application of 5 or 6 different technologies and some mathematical principles that you can't undo. And once people understand that that recipe can be made successful, and Bitcoin has demonstrated on a basic level that it can be made successful, then it doesn't matter which version of the recipe you implement, it's impossible to ever stop that from happening. Right. Think of it as casserole, right? It doesn't matter what's in the layers; it's still casserole.
So I have a real important question that I'm sure that there's a lot of people that really and truly want to know. Outside of speculative store of value, where realistically, what use case, what utilities do you see in the future for Bitcoin? And also, what are your thoughts? It's going to be a 2-part question, but what are your thoughts of something like Bitcoin and Ethereum really and truly being the backbone to sort of like money management, money data management, more like a cloud sharing device? As we see more and more banks that are getting bullish towards XRP and the ODL and the distributed ledger technology, where do you see Bitcoin at in the future? I mean, there has to be some sort of utility there for it. And what does that utility look like? Does it look more like cloud sharing? Does it look more like money management data? How does that look when we have the central bank counterparties and everybody that are really and truly leaning towards R3's Corda platform? When we have so much bullishness coming from the financial market towards RippleNet and ODL, what does that look like to you?
Well, I honestly don't want to get into a comparison of different approaches here. So I have my opinions on that. What I can tell you is that from my perspective, the particular niche that Bitcoin fits is the niche of very decentralized, very robust money that cannot be co-opted, corrupted, and stopped easily by centralized players. And that doesn't make it very appealing. It doesn't make it appealing to the status quo. It represents an alternative choice to business as usual. And, I think that's a very good reason why the status quo, the central banks, the central bank digital currencies, and the banking infrastructure don't find it too appealing, because primarily they want to preserve the architecture of control that they already have. It's a cushy environment. It's an environment that has done very well for them. To me, Bitcoin has always been about the other 6 billion. It's about the 6 billion people who are mostly left out of the banking system, who are unbanked, underbanked, unprivileged, disconnected, stuck in corrupt countries with corrupt governments and corrupt banks, dealing with shitty currencies that can't be transported across borders, cut off from the world financial system. None of the central bank, traditional financial, or more or less centralized platforms, whether that's R3 Corda or Libra or any of the other central bank digital currencies, et cetera, can really compete with that use case because they're fundamentally against it. They're fundamentally about centralized control. Now, of course, that's one of the reasons why banks love them. But if the basis of whether the technology is successful or not is whether the existing business as usual system likes it or not, then it's not really disruptive. And to me, getting the endorsement of the banking system it isn't really worth much. To me, it's very important to have a choice that represents an alternative path. And that alternative path will naturally grate the business as usual system. And so that's the use case for Bitcoin. It's not a speculative asset. It is a system of value that has a very high degree of independence and is very difficult to disrupt or control, which allows it to survive in environments where people are actively trying to disrupt and control it. In places where they desperately need a way to connect to the rest of the world financially, and where the traditional system is not serving their needs for now. But that's, of course, not the only use case. You can also use this technology as a medium of exchange. You can use it as an interbank ledger. You can use it as all of these other things. It's just that it doesn't offer the same opportunities for control, which is why I don't think the banking establishment is that interested in it.
Now, let me ask you this on just to elaborate. You think that Bitcoin, the store of value and being able to send the value is its use case? Is that what I'm understanding correctly?
Its ability to be independent is its use case. So unstoppable, borderless, neutral, immutable, censorship resistant is its use case. The fact that anyone can participate without vetting, the fact that it cannot be constrained by borders, the fact that it cannot be controlled is its use case, because the current financial system, with all of its controls, in order to achieve the degree of control that it achieves, it sacrifices the financial access of billions of people. And that may be an equation that bankers like, the idea that in order to maintain control over the system, in order to keep it a closed system where everybody's vetted, it's okay to sacrifice 5 or 6 billion human beings. But if you ask those 5 or 6 human beings, I might think that they would have a different attitude as to whether that's a price worth paying. So I think there's always a need for an open system that is outside of the system of control.
Does the Lightning Network, does it improve upon scalability issues for Bitcoin? And how important is the Lightning Network moving forward? Or could it be something that is transferred across something like the XRP ledger with the interoperability in which it's seeing? How important is the Lightning Network moving forward and the scalability?
Well, that's a bit of a loaded question, and I'm rather biased in that. You probably know that I'm currently writing my third technical book in the mastering series with O'Reilly called Mastering the Lightning Network, and I'm writing it with two of the kind of, I guess, OGs of Lightning, Olaulo Stockton, and the CTO of Lightning Labs, and the person responsible for developing most of the Lightning Network daemon and contributing massively to all of the standards. and Renee Picard, who's a data scientist and educator who's done an enormous amount of work in educating people about Lightning. We're writing that book now. I am incredibly fascinated by the Lightning Network from a technical perspective, from a science perspective, from a computer science perspective as a distributed system. To me, it is the natural evolution of Bitcoin. You take the hard security properties of Bitcoin and its ability to run these very robust, very focused smart contracts in a highly uncensorable network that allows you to have settlement with immutability. And you take that and you couple it with peer-to-peer routing of payments without trust on a mechanism that allows you to route payments very, very fast. And when I say very fast, we're talking about sub-second routing of payments across the entire network. The ability to scale it to literally tens of millions of transactions per second. Effectively, there is no upper limit on scaling with the Lightning Network. Because the transactions are only transmitted between the participant, the more participants you have, the faster the network gets, which is the opposite of the scaling characteristics of blockchains.
Is the Lightning Network a side chain of Bitcoin? Does it work alongside the main blockchain? It works on the main blockchain?
First of all, the Lightning Network isn't a Bitcoin technology only. The Lightning Network can actually transact across multiple blockchains. Any blockchain that allows you to do fundamentally three basic things. The first thing you need to do is have some form of multi-signature or multi-party control. Some way to lock funds where it requires at least two signatures in order to unlock them. And that's because when you set up a payment channel between two parties, and this is on a network that, to clarify and directly answer your question, isn't a sidechain. It's basically a routable protocol that uses the underlying blockchains to provide security, but then transmits the payments across a peer-to-peer network that runs on top. So in the case of Bitcoin, what you do is you use multisig, a 2 of 2 multisig, to establish a balance between, let's say, me and 1,000 bones, right? And so we take some funds and we put them in a multisig that we both sign. And now I can't spend it without your signature. You can't spend it without my signature. But we have a little backup clause in the smart contract that allows us to get a refund if one of us disappears after a few days and get back the money that we put in. Now what we can do is we can create signed Bitcoin transactions that shift the balance between us. So let's say we go in and I have 1 Bitcoin and you have 1 Bitcoin. We put it in and the multisig has 2 Bitcoin. Now, if we do nothing, we can each get a refund and get our Bitcoin back. Or we could sign an additional transaction that we share with each other that says, actually, it's going to be 1.1 Bitcoin on my side and 0.9 on yours. And we haven't moved any money. We've just simply changed the balance agreement between us. And by exchanging these now, we can each walk away with this new balance. Or we can continue and we can send another transaction to each other. Now, these transactions that we're sending to each other, they're Bitcoin transactions. They're signed Bitcoin transactions because you need to be able to, at any moment you want, end this transaction and go to the Bitcoin blockchain and say, here's my final balance. I've got the signature from 1,000 bones. It says 1.1 Bitcoin is mine. We're good. And so you can do that to maintain a balance between us. Now, if you then have a similar arrangement with Malpass, what we can do is we can effectively make a payment virtually move between us by simply updating the balances of each one of the hops and routing those payments. That's the Lightning Network. But the interesting thing is that Malpass could have a balance agreement like that with someone on XRP or Litecoin or Ethereum or something else. Effectively, all you need to implement a connection into the system is 3 things. You need the ability to do a multisig so that one party can't run away with the money, because it's a system that doesn't require you to trust the other party. That's critical. It's trustless. Right. Two, you need a time lock. You need the ability to say this can't be spent until X time has passed. And that's so that you can always get a refund if the other person disappears, but you can't just run away with the money again. So you need to be able to postpone these promises. And third, you need a way to create a promise, which is protected by a secret. In Bitcoin, we use a construct called a hash time-locked contract, which is basically just you have a hash, and you know the secret behind the hash, and you reveal the secret at the end to settle all the payments. But you could also do that with a digital signature. You could do it with a payment point on a lib to curve. There's a variety of ways you could do that. So any chain that has those three things, and these are fairly basic, they're like the Lego blocks of blockchains, right? Most blockchains have something like this, could participate in a Lightning network or a Lightning-like network. And so you can really start thinking of this as a true internet of money. And that's really why I'm so fascinated by it. Massive scalability, privacy, because you're not broadcasting these transactions. Only the two of us know that they're happening. Very, very fast transactions, very small transactions, and very low fees. So you could basically do microtransactions sub-second. You could do very small transactions sub-penny, and you could do it for almost zero fees.
All right, so to myself and a couple of people in the chat, it really and truly, it sounds like the Lightning Network is basically like a reserve, like basically a reserve account, like almost like what we would consider Nostro Vostro accounts today in the traditional banking system, almost like a reserve account in sort of way. I still have a lot of reading up to do on the Lightning Network.
It's so much more than that, though, because it's a fully routable network between these pairs of accounts, if you want to call them that, but we call them channels because that conveys the idea better. It's a whole new beast. You really can't think of it as relating to something that already exists because it's completely different.
One of the things I've heard people like not so happy about the Lightning Network was that I think they were saying that I had to be signed in and validate the transaction, and so did you, like at the same time. Is that true?
With version 1 of the protocol, yes. But keep in mind, part of the reason for that is because the Lightning Network is really optimized to do very high scale, very rapid, small transactions. It's not designed to do large amount, long-term transactions because you don't need it to do that. You could do that on Bitcoin.
So that really and truly, so Mickey B. Fresh is in the chat, and he brought up a really good point. That really sounds like ILP, like Interledger Protocol. Is really what that sounds like.
It is. It is a form of an interledger protocol.
Okay.
It's a different form of interledger protocol. And again, there are many approaches to this. And I think what we're going to see is a lot of different protocols between ledgers being developed. There's others. There's Plasma and Raiden on Ethereum. There's Cosmos. There is a lot of protocols that are trying to do something very similar. And one of the things I think is going to become interesting is that eventually we're going to start seeing people bridge these together in order to be able to bounce a payment across all of these protocols.
So I'm going to ask a question, and you can really and truly, you can tell me that you don't want to answer this question, but it's a question that I've always wanted to ask the Bitcoin community, and I understand if you don't want to answer it, but
well, I mean, I don't really represent the Bitcoin community, but I can give you my personal opinion. I can't answer on behalf of the whole community.
Why do people outside? I mean, we are the XRP community. I mean, it is what we are. We're very proud of that project. We're very proud of what the team has done. We're very proud of everything that's transpiring throughout the whole events of what they have going on. But we see that outside of the XRP community, there's no love for XRP. There's no middle ground. Either you really like XRP or you don't like XRP at all. Yes. And I'm just curious on your thoughts of XRP. How do you feel about XRP and moving forward through the next decade?
Honestly, it's no skin off my back. I don't take a particularly maximalist position on these things. I don't believe in there's only one way to do this, and that's the only right way, and you either love it or hate it, and everybody else is wrong. I've never done that. It's not my style. I'll tell you that I have some doubts, and XRP does not seem to be the right answer in some ways to what I think is interesting. But that's just a personal opinion, and it certainly doesn't rise to any strong emotion. It doesn't make me reluctant to talk to people or even have interesting conversations about it. I think that from my perspective, XRP seems to be much more centralized and not as resistant to censorship, control, and interference as Bitcoin. But that's just my personal opinion. And again, it doesn't really matter because all of these questions are going to get answered by the market. And the only way to really test these questions, I can write 1,000 papers, you can write 1,000 papers, we can all have opinions. The only way to test these is in production with real adversaries, with real difficult circumstances, and see how these things play out, because honestly, none of us know. And so from that perspective, I don't see any reason to begrudge anyone for trying a different approach. And I think that any lessons learned in XRP, in Bitcoin, in Ethereum, in any of the other chains, whether they're learned through success or they're learned through failure, are good lessons that benefit the entire broad community. I'm no friend of banks. Bottom line, as far as I'm concerned, the banking system today does not serve the vast majority of people in the world. But, if they want to play whatever they want to play at, again, not my problem. I just don't find it particularly interesting to focus my efforts on that. For me, the basis of my mission has always been the other 6 billion. This is about building economic opportunity and inclusion for people who don't currently have it. And in order to do that, in my opinion, you need a system that cannot be controlled, that is truly borderless and open. And to me, that's Bitcoin. But not everybody has to agree.
Can I ask you this, though? Because in the XRP community, I hear all the time about how Bitcoin is 51% of the miners are in China, and China pretty much can control Bitcoin. What's your thoughts on that?
So people focus a lot on the 51%, but in fact, having a 51% advantage in Bitcoin doesn't allow you to control the network. It allows you to do a double spend, but it doesn't allow you to change the consensus rules. It doesn't allow you to shut down the network, only disrupt it temporarily. And the idea that 51% of the miners are concentrated in China doesn't really mean something once you understand that China is a pretty damn big country. And there's a lot of different places where this mining occurs. So yes, that's one aspect of Bitcoin that is an element of centralization. You could say the same thing. As much as Bitcoin can be attacked with a 51% attack, XRP can be attacked with 54 validators being coerced. And the biggest difference, of course, is that the validators in XRP are identified and not anonymous. So from that perspective, I think that's a less robust system. But, who knows? This thing is going to play out over a much longer period of time. We do have to wrap. So let's make this the last question, because I do have to get to my next thing.
Okay. You've been on with us for an hour, and you only gave us 30 minutes at first, so we really appreciate you going over and above with us, Andreas. Absolutely.
Absolutely. So really and truly, my last question, the last question, and I think that it's a question for everybody that's involved in this space, no matter what project you're behind, but realistically, over the next decade, where do you see blockchain going over the next decade?
As far as I'm concerned, the most important thing to do is to continue to build better systems, better user interfaces, better user experience, and to make these systems easier to use so that more people can participate. At the end of the day, for me, the most important thing is to present people around the world with choices and make these choices that they can actually exercise. And if we give people the choice, that doesn't mean they have to take it. But I think it's very important that we break this monopoly of financial payments, transaction, and banking systems that we have, or even more broadly, the institutions of trust that we have that don't scale, that are controlled by very few people, that exclude billions of people, and that create an enormous amount of inequality and injustice in the world. So if we can break that stranglehold, essentially a cartel that has developed over the last 50 years, and give people an opportunity to participate in voluntary consent-based systems that give them more choice, that's success. And
Absolutely.
I think we're already achieving that. And I think we're achieving it not just through Bitcoin, but we're achieving it across the board with a broad range of technologies, a broad range of approaches. And these are all great experiments that will teach us a lot.
Absolutely. Mr. Andreas, I have much respect for you. You've opened my eyes up to some things that I was not aware of. You did a great job of answering some really tough questions, and I really appreciate your time and the opportunity that we've had to sit down and talk with you today. Real quick, everybody in the chat, guys, this is another step forward of my saying of we may not have it all together, but together we can have it all. We don't need to concentrate in groups. We need to go ahead and make sure that we're documenting the phases in which we're going through. We need to make sure that we're soaking it all in, because guys, these are going to be the times that we're going to remember forever. We're changing the world. We're documenting the world changing, and guys, we're here doing it together. We're going to miss these days sooner or later. I appreciate everybody that come in the chat that was very respectful to Mr. Andreas Aantonopoulos. Definitely appreciate you coming in and taking your time to answer some questions with us. 1,000 Bones, my brother, always much love. You got anything you want to say to the crowd before we get out of here?
Much love to all you guys, and definitely Andreas, again, thank you so much for taking your time and sitting down and opening our eyes to some things. Because again, me too, that it opened my eyes to a few different things with the Lightning Network.
Oh, it's been my pleasure. Thank you so much for inviting me on the show, and hope to see you soon. Have
Absolutely.
a good one.
Hey,
Bye-bye.
thank you, sir. All right, ladies and gentlemen, we're going to close him out here, and then we are going to continue on with the show, give you my thoughts and opinions, and I'm going to be honest with you. I think that realistically, he's a good guy. He's a very genuine guy, but I think that he has his thoughts and everything are going in one direction, and I think that a lot could be learned from a good conversation between everybody. And I think that there's some things that he's missing when it comes towards XRP and the XRP ODL, what Xcurrent is and everything else. Because, guys, I'm going to be real with you, Bones. This is me and you talking now, Bones, because I'm going to be real. When you start seeing the things that are happening and transpiring all over the globe, whether anybody likes or dislikes XRP, you can't help but see where the adoption is going to be. You can't help but see that we have central banks that are building CBDCs on top of R3's Corda platform. You can't help but see that David Schwartz has come out and said, hey, before we can push the adoption of XRP, we have to really and truly, we have to step up and we have to rebuild the plumbing infrastructure of the financial system. The plumbing's done. The plumbing has been completed, and now we see a situation to where we're starting to see them push more and more for the adoption of ODL. And I was really hoping that when I asked him why people do not like XRP, I was hoping I was going to get an honest answer, not a vague answer, because really and truly, the honest answer, I think that we know what the honest answer is, and I think that hopefully sooner or later somebody is going to step up and say it, and I hope that it's not a situation to where it's too late, to where they had their hatred towards a great project for so long that they never actually got to achieve some advancements off of the financial gains off of it. I really and truly, I hope that some people do it. I want to pay attention to the chat real quick. We got Crypto Boo Boo. She's been in here just blowing it up. We definitely appreciate you. Mickey B Fresh, hey, definitely appreciate all the support you've been giving. Nancy Luton, we got Stephen Chip. Chip's always good to see you. XRP Carolina. We got Matt Richter. Man, guys, we're happy to see all of you. Jet Digital, Carl Lewis. Guys, thank y'all for coming in and hanging out with us, guys. We got 82
Absolutely.
people in the chat. Let's go ahead and hit the like. If you haven't done it yet, go ahead and subscribe, and let's make sure that you stay up to date on what we got going on. We got Alan Dixon. Hey, guys, from Skipton, UK. We appreciate you coming in and hanging out with us. We got Andrew Nation. We got The Real Satoshi. What about Lawsuit 2020? Man, what is it you want to know about it, Real Satoshi? What do you want to know about it? Nancy Luton, thank you, James. Got to get some good reading. Hey, I'm glad you got something out of that reading that I sent you, Miss Nancy. There's a lot going on there. We got Patrick. Patrick is in here. He said he's here. Don't forget him. We got Ranger Cove 175. Hey, appreciate it, man. Appreciate it. Bones worked hard to get that set up. We was gonna do this from the zoo, but ended up last second trying to get things set up, and it was just easier to come off of the Crypto Nation news. We got Staff Sergeant of the Marines, Malpass, great interview. I think Andreas.
He was very gracious with us, though. I mean, for sure, by sitting down and trying to answer the question.
Absolutely, man. I got nothing but respect for him, man. He's been in the space for a long time. For an extremely long time, man. He's doing things, stepping forward, trying to push for adoption. I think that he has done a great job with doing that. I mean, he's the author of 6 books, and that takes time in itself. I mean, sitting down in front of legislation. Hey, we got Dan Espy in the house. Dan, we always appreciate you coming in. We got SW. Hey, Crypto Eddie in the house. We appreciate Crypto Eddie. The Crypto Camper, congratulations. Appreciate it, buddy. Appreciate it. We got Dom McNuggets. Hey, champions, great stream. We appreciate you. Objective Illusions for sure. For sure. That was real exciting to sit down with somebody that's been in the space that long. Hey, I don't know if you know it or not, Bones, but he was gifted 100 Bitcoin before the 2017 bull run. Andreas was gifted 100 Bitcoin from his followers.
Wow, bro. I didn't know that.
Yeah, man. Hey, I went and checked him out, dude. I went and checked him out. I went and pulled his Wikipedia and everything else, man. He's a very smart dude. He went to college out in London. But like I say, to be gifted 100 Bitcoin, guys, man, I just passed out. Man, we ain't even going to talk about how much XRP we man.
Hey, if you guys are subscribed, definitely subscribe to CNN Crypto Nation News. Definitely hit the likes, give them out passing love, and much love to everybody in that chat today.
Hey, we got Digital Nomad Investor. How you doing, buddy? Carl Lewis, Gator XRP. Good job, guys. We appreciate you coming in. DNI, it's always good to see you. DNI, we need some updates on the SDR. Things are heating up in that realm of the world. We know that is your specialty, is the IMF and the SDR. Things are heating up. We really need some updates, buddy. When are we going to get some?
I think he was dropping videos at like 2 a.m. last night or 2.
You got to think, man. He's in a totally different time zone than we are. You got to think about that. You got to think about that. All right, so Bones, I want to get your opinion. I want to know where you see 2020s. What do you see happening? Where do you see it going? Seeing what we're seeing unfold. We're seeing nations like South Korea that every aspect of their day-to-day life has got some form of blockchain involved in it. We're seeing places like India that are not so much adopting digital assets, but have full-blown adopted blockchain technology, putting it in their everyday aspects of their life. We're starting to see Ripple starting to move down into Brazil. We're starting to see Japan heat up really good. We're starting to see over the Bank of England, Mark Carney. He is making some really good statements, talking about going green, and we know how we're going to go green with the economy. I mean, there's only one of them that don't put off the emissions and everything else, the carbons. So we got some really good thoughts coming out of the Bank of England, and we know that the Bank of England is a paid Ripple partner, and we know that there is a central bank out there somewhere that is a partner also that has not been announced yet, but we can speculate and think that that's somewhere around the ECB, but that's just speculation at the moment. Right. Seeing all of these things transpire, Bones, where do you see the 2020s? What do you see happening, buddy?
Man, I see regulations starting to come down the pipe. I think things have been being built the last 2-3 years as we've all been, hanging out with each other and all that stuff. It's coming to a head, and then the gates, I think, are getting ready to start flinging open. Either hopefully this year. I mean, honestly, I really think it will be this year. And it's just going to open the floodgates. I've heard, some very big investors talking about there's tidal waves of money coming to crypto. And I think once that regulation key gets turned, and I think it's going to be a tidal wave of money, and I hope it's this year.
Farshad's in the house. We definitely appreciate you coming in, Farshad. But what I think that realistically, guys, I think that regulation is here. Just because it has not been announced to you and I, we see signs of it. We see things that are happening that tells us that regulation is here. 3,000 ATMs getting XRP listed on it. That's a small sign of regulation is here, but it's still a sign of regulation is here. You got Fidelity. That is realistically onboarding a crypto exchange. We know that Fidelity is a Coinbase partner. There's rumors it's going to be Digital Galaxy. There's rumors that it's going to be this exchange or that exchange that they're going to be plugging into the back end. But when you think about that, how easy it is to onboard over-the-counter trading desk and how difficult it is to onboard a crypto exchange, but yet Fidelity is one of the first ones that are stepping up and realistically onboarding an exchange for their clients to be able to trade in custody digital assets with the trusted name of Fidelity guarding them. And then you actually turn around and you see what's happening in Germany with banks that are going completely digital. And then we get a press release today that there's a bank in Singapore that just got accepted for a digital license to be a digital bank, a fully digital bank. And that's one of 5 licenses that Singapore is actually issuing out, one of 5 licensing. And there's just so much that is saying that really and truly that regulation is here.
It is. I think so. And I don't think Ripple would be walking around bragging with their chest out so hardcore if they didn't know what was coming and what was exactly about to take place.
That's right. Farshad Rahani with the $9.99, man. I appreciate that, buddy. Well, I'll make sure Bones gets a little bit of that, and we definitely appreciate the love offering that you have thrown to us, Farshad. We appreciate that. Let's get into the chat. Crypto Papa TV. Hello, guys. Hey, welcome to the show, Crypto Poppy. We got Nancy Luton, Farshad Rahani. Excellent. Enjoy the concert. Anyone we may know. Farshad is all over the place, man. You can't keep up with Farshad. Vetty, bro, sorry I'm late. No YouTube notification. Hey, you got to hit the bell, Vetty, bro. Come on, big dog.
So you don't get the notification. The bell ain't hit.
That's right. We got the digital nomad investor talking about the staff sergeant of the Marines. Hey, staff sergeant of the Marines, boy, he's been in here killing it lately, man. We appreciate you coming in, hanging out with us. Man, it's been a really good stream, guys. It's been a really informative stream. We got to get the inside scoop on what's happening over on the BTC side of the world. That's not usually what we get without a big argument. I think I was starting to aggravate him a little bit. You can tell that
shut her down.
Yeah, you can tell he wasn't really digging my questions, man. But hey, there's the questions that need to be asked. I mean, right. You know what I mean? Yeah. It's far different than the questions Bones put in front of me, I promise you. But it was questions that needed to be asked, and I hope that I didn't offend him. I hope I didn't make him feel uncomfortable. But I mean, those are just questions that we wanted to know. Dan Espy, buy XRP, so cheap right now. Absolutely. When you buy yours, Dan, buy me some. We got Gaz Dean talking about some great content. We got Betty Bro, Carl Lewis, Crypto Boo Boo. Hey guys, y'all got anything? Y'all got any questions, man? What y'all got, chat? Do smash the like button on your way in, please. We appreciate that, Farshad. And if you haven't done so, guys, go ahead and subscribe to the channel. We got a lot of things coming out. We got a lot of things going on. Nancy Luton.
I want to remind everybody to be safe tomorrow night too. We got New Year's coming up. It's the holidays. There's going to be a lot of drunk drivers and stuff going on. So everybody be safe tomorrow, and just have your head on a swivel and stuff. Be safe.
Absolutely, guys. Absolutely. Always have your head on a swivel no matter what you got going on. No matter what we got going on. Matt Richter said, I got some. Go and get me some too. Go and get me some too, Matt. All right, guys. I'm sure Bones has some things he wants to do. Jet Digital. Yeah. Hey, thank you, buddy. We appreciate the time. Happy New Year to everybody, guys. Hey, as always, man, remember, guys, love God, love others, serve both, take care of your family, lift up your neighbor, and let's get through this thing together, guys. We may not have it all together, but together we can have it all. And like I told you before, this channel is nothing more than just putting the pieces of the puzzle in front of you. That way you can figure out the same thing that I know. We all need to dig into this thing together. We all need to make sure that we have our head on a swivel and make sure that we're just fighting along the way and documenting the journey as we go. These are the times we're going to remember forever. Spanish Fly 2020 is here, guys. It's only a day and a half away. I can't wait for it, guys. SW with the 48.99 euro. You are amazing. I love SW. You need to hurry up and come on over here and pick us up in that jet. We ready to go to LA. We ready to fly out to some DLT Con 2020. I can't wait to meet you, SW. I hope that your boyfriend is doing good. We're praying for him. And make sure that he's on that plane when you show up. Let's get this thing done, girl. XRP Carolina, Happy New Year to everyone. Happy New Year to Boo Boo. Sincerely, George. You are a blessing to all of us. We appreciate you coming in and hanging out in here with us. XRP, man. Amen, my brother. Digital Nomad Investor, Happy New Year and be safe. Hey. Everybody got nothing but love for the whole community. My brother Bones, hey, I love you too, babe. We're going to make it through this thing. Staff Sergeant of Marine wants to give some financial advice before we get out of here. Once XRP moves to diversify into real estate, live Warren Buffett. I hear you.
Not bad advice.
I hear you. SW said, yes, DLT is going to be huge. Hey, there's no doubt about it. It's going to be much better. Hey, absolutely. Spanish Fly, have a good night, everyone. Hi, boys. New to this channel. John Edwards, if you're new to the channel, go ahead, hit the subscribe. Let's make sure that we get in here where we need to go. We got Mr. David Brooks. Is that my pastor? If that's my pastor, I'm going to show out in here. If that's my pastor, David Brooks, I love you, brother. I'm glad you come in here and hang out with us. But like I always say, hey, we may not have it together. Together we can have it all, guys. Don't forget, love God, love others, serve both, and we will see you in the next one.